Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to another Refinitiv Real-Time Distribution System webinar. My name is Christian Cloud and I'm your host today. James Catlin, our co-host on this webinar, will have an eye on the chat and incoming questions. We have a packed agenda for today. We have a short review on the Refinitiv rebranding and the Q1 RTDS and DACS releases. We'll give you an overview about the Q2 RTDS DACS and DACS deliverables and enhancements. We will have a short demo on a new RTDS feature, the warm standby preferred active route. And finally, we will provide some insights on upcoming RTDS and DACS releases. Today's presenters are Joe, Parvat, Jeff. You can read all the job titles and the contact details here. Everyone is very happy to get in contact with you if you have further questions. Let's kick off with the review. One hot topic was the product change notification, covers the legal requirement for the rebranding of all versions of Trap core software prior to version 3.5.0. and the customer installation of the rebranded software by end of July 2021. There will be no software releases after this date for non-rebranded versions of software, products, services, APIs, URL, and documentation. Please remember, it's not only a rebranding. Every RTDS release contains new features and enhancements. There's a link on the recording of the November webinar where you can see further details. The rebranding has also an impact on the data access control system, primarily on the ICANN permission synchronization, which uses now Refinitiv addresses instead of Thomson Reuters addresses. You can easily check and configure this by log into the DAX user interface, go to ICANN UID synchronization, click on the configure button, and replace the edge device server names. In the last webinar, we introduced the Refinitiv real-time connector, previously known as ADS POP. The RTC-based architecture is fully TCP-based, compared with typical deployment, which runs on multicast. RTC contains similar features as RTDS. It's applicable for both cloud and on-prem deployments, manageability via REST, and shared memory. Further information can be found on the recording link below. What's released in, or what's new in the release 3.5.1? The delay feature now supports level 2 data in addition to level 1 market price data. Requests to a delay service for a domain that is not configured for delay will be blocked. There are enhancements on cache resiliency and persistence for level 2 data. And finally, Refinitiv Real-Time Connector offers full category A support for both Amazon Web Services and Google Cloud Platform. And this release introduced a new real-time connector installation manual, as well as a new real-time connector cloud manual, providing information on deploying and running the RTC within AWS and GCP. Other enhancements are hot standby auto failback network now supports our CCP style configuration protocol. Performance improvements across all intervals to provide down to 100 milliseconds conflation intervals, and qualification documentation on the use of the open standard Docker Compose to create and launch RTDS Docker container images. There are further enhancements on the RTDS tools. There's an enhancement on test saver to be able to send previous and next names in SSL image headers. There's an option to include timestamps in the XML output file, and the running the test client with the -nc command line option now shares the field dictionary file across all WebSocket connections to greatly reduce the loading time and the memory usage. There is also some enhancements on the DACS. Category A support for DACS is now available on Red Hat 8. DACS 7.7.1 includes a number of bug fixes to address operations, reporting, and security features. So I've probably talked enough about the Q1 releases and previous webinars. We run now through all of the Q1 deliverables and enhancements. Jeff, Joe, can you please take over?
Certainly. Thank you, Christian. Good day, everyone, and thank you for joining for us for another real-time distribution system and DAX roadmap review. The real-time distribution system roadmap includes a list of our large enhancements that we are either working on or have already delivered. You'll see the dates there. In addition to large enhancements, there's always, though, a number of other small enhancements and bug fixes that we include with each release. On the roadmap, we're only including the large enhancements, but there's a what's new document that's available with every release, and that includes a full list of small enhancements and bug fixes as well. The what's new doc is available to download on MyRefinitiv, and Christian has included a link at the end of this presentation. Many of you know that we've been running ADS POP at Amazon AWS since 2018, which is our cloud infrastructure for our real-time optimized data feed. Over the last couple of years, we've heard from customers that they want more than one choice for a cloud service provider. So our goal has been to become cloud agnostic and be able to provide category A support at all three major cloud service providers. You'll see on line 1 of the roadmap that we extended category A support for ADS POP and the real-time connector running at Google or GCP at the end of March. And then on the second line, you'll see we extended category A support for the ADS POP and real-time connector running at Azure at the end of June. Both of these projects were actually escalated as the pandemic caused a shift in customer requests and timelines. So basically, this means, though, that we've met our objective at the end of June, and customers can now choose to locate at any of the three major cloud providers to install RTDS. So that's a good accomplishment. We also had a big deliverable at the end of June on line 3, which is RTDS Cloud Certification at AWS. You may be thinking, how does that differ from category A support from the real-time connector? So let me just take a minute to explain. The predefined package goes beyond just providing category A support for the ADS POP and the real-time connector. And you'll see the description basically says to create a predefined off-the-shelf RTDS deployment. This will include both the real-time connector and DAX at AWS as of the end of June, which is we delivered. And then this will be repeated with Microsoft Azure and Google GCP by the end of the year. So the off-the-shelf deployment will initially address 5 criteria, which are architecture, licensing, machine images, both container and non-container deployments, and of course, support. And I say this, the initial 5 criteria, because the list is quickly evolving and expanding, but that's what we're initially looking to cover on the first phase, right? The reason for this, to come up with this predefined offering, is that last year there were a number of different types of requests for different type of deployments based on customers' requirements. And there was, in our professional services team, ended up setting up a few bespoke solutions for customers because there was basically no one set of requirements that were exactly the same. Now, bespoke solutions may be appropriate and required for some use cases, but they're generally expensive, they're not scalable, and they're not sustainable from a support model. So based on our experience and interactions from last year, the goal was to come up with this off-the-shelf deployment that would address the majority of our customer requirements, not all of them, but the majority of the customer requirements for a solution that customers could manage on their own and that we can support for them. And I say customers could manage on their own because last year customers were really planning to manage their own implementations. Now we're seeing customers shifting to a managed cloud implementation. And the point I want to make here is that it's an evolving marketplace. There's different ideas from different customers, and we are actively engaged with all three cloud service providers to evaluate customer use cases and provide solutions. There are a couple of on-premise features that are not available in the cloud today, and we are working on alternatives. So keep in mind that if the public cloud does not quite have everything you want today, there are also hybrid options that can leverage private cloud, can leverage on-prem and co-location services, and even some of our managed service capabilities can be leveraged for hybrid solutions. And I can say that customer requirements continue to evolve, and I anticipate that we'll have some other cloud deployment options for you before the end of the year as we continue to work in collaboration with some customers and the cloud service providers to meet additional requirements. All right, next up on the roadmap here, we're second row from the bottom, Websocket Encryption, which is another customer requested enhancement that meets requirements actually for all customers, whether you're on-premise, colo, private or public cloud. Basically, the feature embeds encryption capabilities on the ADS POP, and real-time connector for WebSocket consumers that's using a standard open SSL for secure communications. And the benefit here is that it's an added layer of security between the distribution infrastructure and the remote consumers so that data content is secure. All right. Now, I mentioned a minute ago, there are some capabilities that are used by on-prem customers that are not available in the cloud yet. And one of these is multicast traffic that provides on-prem customers high levels of performance and resilience. And, you know, we initially rolled out an alternative last August, which was warm standby. And when I say alternative to source mirroring or hot standby that does require multicast, that was released 3.4.2, right? Warm standby was well received and implemented by customers, which was then quickly followed up by a request for this new capability, which is the last item here on the roadmap for June, which is warm standby preferred route. Joe, why don't you provide a little bit of background for warm standby that led us to this enhancement, if you would? Thanks.
Sure, thanks, Jeff. So a couple main reasons. First, we're trying to provide as close to like hot standby functionality as we can using our RTC TCP-based solution. So this feature is very similar to our hot standby preferred active feature. We did take it a little bit further, and we added some additional enhancements to allow administrators to be able to perform feedback to the preferred based on a specific date and time. Paravat will get into that a little bit later. The second is this feature allows administrators to have control and predictability over the active route. With warm standby, only active route has update traffic. So the same sort of idea as asymmetrical load balancing, right? Administrators can perform warm standby across local and cascaded routes and then ensure the local route is the active when available, right? This will save comms, data costs, as well as ensure the active data has the lowest latency. So that was a real quick highlight. So I think over to Paravat for a quick demo.
Thanks, Joe, Jeff. Paravat, can you take over with the demo?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Paravat. Today, I'm going to do a quick demo for the warm standby preferred route. Over here, I have my RTC configuration file. Right, as you can see, I have 4 routes available at the global level, host RSSL 1 to 4. Right, and I enable provider warm standby feature, set it to true. And since I want to use the warm standby preferred route feature, so I set it to true as well. And then here I have host RSSL 124 grouped together as a single primary server. One of them gonna be the active server, and then the other gonna remain standby. So basically, the RTC is the one who decide which route it want to be the active. Right, the standby connection do not receive any images or updates. It's just the active connection that receive data from the upstream. So the standby connection doesn't consume any bandwidth. Whichever route that become available first will be the active server. However, with the warm standby prefer route feature, you can choose which route you want to be the preferred active route. So in my case, I pick host RSSL3 as my preferred active route. So I have more control which route I want it to be the active. And we also have this configuration parameter. How long we want to wait to switch over back to the preferred route. When I say preferred route, right, so that means when the RTC gets started up initially, right, the preferred route should always be the active server. And moreover, if the preferred route went down and come back up later, right, the RTC will try to switch over and promote the preferred route to become the active server again, right, because we want to stick to the preferred route as much as we can. That's the whole idea of the preferred active route feature. So let me start up my RTC version 3.352. And I'm pulling up my RTC mon. So if I go to the server statistic, I will see only one primary server. And underneath, I should see 4 warm standby servers. Right, and you can see my preferred route is currently active. And then I'm going to bring down the active route. So I go to host RSSL3 and then disable the route. Need to false. It go back to the warm standby page. Right now, one of the standby server just took over and become the new active. Because the preferred route went down. So we don't have any choice. We have to promote one of the standby server to become the active. And then I'm gonna bring back the preferred route. Go to source browse and bring the route back up. I go to warm standby section. Here we go. You can see the preferred route just came back up, but right now it remains standby because I set the time window to 15 seconds. Here we go. Right now the preferred route just took over. And then for the warm standby statistic, right, you can see we keep track of the items across warm standby servers. Make sure that to see if there are any out of sync items But right now I have everything in sync. All 100 items are active across our warm standby servers. And let me go to the diagram a little bit. Right. So we also support time date based switchover. So let's say when the preferred route come back up, right? We don't want to switch back right away during market hours. So we want to wait until at nighttime or during the weekend. Right. We provide that flexibility with this configuration parameter. So let's say if you want the switchover to kick in at 12:01 at night, so you can do so with this on job line configuration parameter. And other than that, right, we also provide configurable switchover thresholds, because we want to make sure that the preferred route is healthy and in a good shape. So we provide min items recoverable upon warm standby switchover, max item interrupt upon warm standby switchover. So you have more control if you want to switch over back to the preferred route or not. And one of the real world use case I want to mention is that the preferred route should be something in your local network. Right? We should be the lowest cost connection, and we want to stick to that connection. So we set it as a preferred route. And for the standby connection, it could be something over the WAN, remote location, or some higher cost locations. So that's the whole idea of the preferred route feature. I think that's it. Thank you, guys.
Okay, thanks, Parivat, for this live demo on the warm standby preferred active route. So we are coming now to the last part of this webinar. So we will provide you an overview about the H2 RTDS and DACS deliverables. So Jeff, may I ask you to take over again?
Sure thing. Thank you, Christian, and thank you, Parivat. Thanks, Joe, for that little backup information about warm standby. I just want to emphasize that, the real benefit for, for the preferred route is that basically that switch over back to the preferred route, which used to be manual, now can be automated. So it just, again, it takes into account customers' requests for additional enhancements, and that's what we're able to deliver on. It certainly makes things run more efficiently. And again, the good thing that Parivat pointed out is warm standby, especially in a cloud environment where you're not paying for bandwidth on the backup circuit because it's only running standby, is useful as well. So, all right, let me move on to Q3 here. So we'll see that the predefined off-the-shelf RTDS offering at Azure, we've already discussed that, so I'm not gonna, I don't want to, I want to emphasize again, same thing, it's architecture, it's licensing, it's machine images, container and non-container deployments, and of course support. But we've covered that, I don't want to repeat that. So that's the same thing, we'll see that again, so I'm not going to repeat that. Also for Q3, we will release cascaded persistent mounts as a new resiliency feature, which means the downstream server will be directed to reconnect to an upstream server automatically, so it has access to the same watch list. And this is actually reconnecting to an actual server rather than just a location, right? So the benefit here is that it provides a higher level of data integrity across multiple servers and faster recovery in event of a restart or a failover, all right? So I'm not going to run through all these because I'm conscious of our time here. There is one of the other deliverables for Q4 that I do want to hit on, though, which is Red Hat 8 that customers have been asking for. We'll have native binaries for ADH, ADS, and ADS POP in Q4, but we'll actually have a Red Hat 8 binaries for real-time connector a bit earlier. This is based on configuration capabilities that we have. So, Joe, can you give us an idea of what your plan is here for Q3 with real-time connector and Red Hat 8, please?
Sure, thanks, Jeff. So for RTC, of course, it's our TCP-based solution that usually goes pretty smoothly when qualifying new platforms. So we're gonna attack that guy first. Right now, the RTC package only includes Oracle 7 binaries, but then in Q3 we'll also include native Red Hat 8. We like to spend a little more time qualification testing performance with our multicast backbone when it comes to new platforms. So we just kind of decided to spend a little more effort on that and push that out to Q4. In Q4 for 354, that will be a package for ADH and ADS that has actually 3 native binary platforms. So we'll have Red Hat 6, Oracle 7, and Red Hat 8. And then that'll take us into next year. Thanks, Jeff.
Okay, thanks, Joe. Let me get back over here then. Okay, so basically that's important for people to understand because again, Red Hat 8 is something people have been asking for. What I want to do, again, you can see that there's some other great deliverables here for Q4 as well. Obviously, we're pushing pushing out the RTDS certification as well for GCP, as I mentioned earlier, a couple other enhancements. But again, due to time, what I want to do is move on to the DACS roadmap. Can we go to the next page, please? Yep, thank you. All right. So again, basically the first 2 line items, as I mentioned earlier, are for Dax Cloud Certification. Again, this goes beyond simply providing Category A support for DAX running in the cloud. And again, same deliverable, same criteria as we have for RTC. But the point here is that, rather than just worrying about getting RTC up and running, if you got data in the cloud, if you're running real-time data in the cloud, basically, you need a way to permission and report those consumers and data that you're using, right? So there's the dependency for DAX, and it has to be part of this predefined off-the-shelf offering that we're working on. And we'll provide a cost-effective solution for customers to manage on their own that we can support. And again, as the climate is changing and there's more of even of a pivot by some customers to move to a managed solution, we're also looking at and evaluating solutions in a managed environment to run DAX, right? The last item on the DAX roadmap here for Q4 is an alternative for an internet connection to be used in place of Delivery Direct because a Delivery Direct connection is not available in the cloud. And this goes back to basically allows the customer's local DAX to connect back to the Refinitiv real-time permissioning platform to synchronize those permissions for Icon and Workspace users. So having an alternative for Delivery Direct is important because Delivery Direct is not available in the cloud, and it also becomes an effective alternative for any location to have an internet connection rather than Delivery Direct, because you can in effect use the internet connection anywhere you want where you're not dependent on Delivery Direct. Again, there are security issues involved if you're in a data center and you're trying to get in and out with an internet connection versus Delivery Direct. But in the cloud, it's a little bit different and the security parameters are a little bit different. So essentially that wraps up the roadmap discussion for the real-time distribution system and the data access control system. And so I want to thank you for being present today, listening to this information. As Christian said, my email's at the beginning of the presentation. Please reach out if there's any questions or you need additional information. And I'll turn this back. Again, thank you, and I'll turn this back to Christian.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Joe, for this insight of the roadmap for H2. So finally, we have put the links together. Where you can find further information about the roadmap, the DAX roadmap as well, and further information about the RTDS, and you find here a consolidated link. If you are interested on more academy classes, there is a link below, so you can go through the website and select further courses on our deployments. So thank you to all of the team presenting and supporting this webinar. Hope you enjoyed it. Good day, and thank you very much for your attendance.